The Business Owner's Journey. I'm Nick Berry, and I've got real business owners telling their real stories, sharing their real lessons and strategies so you don't have to figure it all out on your own. I have wrapped up season 1 of The Business Owner's Journey, and as a part of that, I'm doing this special mini-series, The 12 Days of Business. There are 12 days, 12 episodes with 12 of my previous guests from season 1. Today's 12 days guest is Dana Farber, the founder of Moonstone Marketing and a fractional CMO. So Dana's first episode with me, we spent a lot of time talking about using empathy in marketing, and she shared her process for doing that, which she calls mindful marketing. And I think she does that really well. We also did something really unique that I like to do with guests when I'm able, and that's workshop something in the interview. It's an opportunity for the guest to show you their skills, let them flex their muscles a little bit, for you to see or hear a little bit more what it's like to work with that actual guest. And I mean, it's a great experience for me. I'm a lot more comfortable with it than most of the guests are, I think. I'm sure that most of the time they're don't really want to come on to someone's show as a guest and then roast them, but it's been really valuable, and I'm looking to do more of that moving forward. In this particular interview, Dana took me through a customer insight mapping exercise and then shared some pretty serious misconceptions that we tend to have that limit our marketing. Not to spoil it, but I'll name a few. Number one, we're biased about behaviors, both our own and customer behaviors. We tend to oversimplify what we think goes on in marketing and relegate it to transactional activities like clicks, ads, but it's much more than that. We also tend to think discount rather than telling the right story when it comes time to convert. Listening to this exercise is going to be eye-opening for some, and it'll make anybody better equipped to be able to market their business immediately. And then if you enjoy the show, you can show your support by subscribing. And I'd love for you to share it with any one of your business-minded friends. Every episode and guest page on nickberry.info has the little share this buttons on it. So you can go to the website, find your episode or the guest page, click, share it directly to any other website, any of your social platforms. You can just paste the link. Super handy, super simple. You can also get the episodes sent to you by email, which you could then very easily forward along to someone in your circle who's deserving. You just need to go to nickberry.info/12 days. That's the number 12 days. When you subscribe to the emails, you will get the episodes sent to you. You will also get all of the guest profiles and then all of the resources that come along with each of the episodes. And these are things that we're only doing through email. So remember to get those. And these 12 days emails all have the Christmas theme, and where all the guests were wearing the Santa hats, but they're perfect for year round. They designed to be the gift that keeps on giving. So you need to go to nickberry.info/12 days. That's the number 12 days. And all of my dry humor and wit aside, anything that you're willing to do to help support the show, whether it's subscribe, like, review, or sharing, I really do appreciate it. You have a lot of options to listen to, and today you chose me, and I thank you for doing that. My goal is to bring some value to your life through this episode. So thank you. And now let's go enjoy this show.
So we're going to do an exercise. And the reason that we came up with this exercise together kind of was, I talk a lot about mindful marketing, and really what that is, other than it just sounds nice, is it's about authentic and empathetic marketing. And I think in order to be authentic, you have to be empathetic. You can't speak with authenticity if you don't know the people that you're talking to. And I find that a lot of clients, when they first come to me, again, it's not their fault. It's how marketing itself needs marketing. Marketing itself has gotten a bad rap, and it sounds even like just icky. You're like, oh, marketing, what are we going to do? We're going to put a Facebook ad out there. We're going to go cold email someone, neither of which are marketing, but I can't get into that. It's just people don't think of themselves as consumers and as victims of marketing and users of marketing. So what I like to do, I like to always start with my clients with what I call consumer insight mapping. So it's a little exercise that we're going to do together today. And so basically, I'm going to prove to you, and I don't think you're a skeptic, Nick, but pretend you're a skeptic who doesn't believe in marketing for the moment. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions based on a recent purchase that you made. So do you have anything you've purchased in the last week? It can be online, it can be in store. Online is helpful for these purposes, but it can be anything. Anything you've bought in the last week that we can use as an example.
We could do a book.
Okay.
Or I went and got a haircut. Can you tell?
I sure can. Either of those work. So,
let's do the book. I don't want to talk about my hair.
Yeah, I know you just don't want to seem so vain on this podcast, right? Okay, perfect. Let's start with the book. Okay, so you bought a book this week. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and each one of them is going to hopefully shape all the different parts of a marketing funnel that we need as a brand to reverse engineer what is the ultimate endpoint that's already happened at this point in the conversation that you made a purchase. So what was the initial need? What was the initial problem or need that led you to consider making this purchase for this specific book? And you can share the book too.
It is 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And the need, I try to always have a book that I'm reading, and I was just about finished with the previous one, and someone, that was next in line.
Okay, perfect. So you're a consistent reader. It's something that maybe you have a list somewhere going. It's something you keep a pulse on new books. You talk about books with people, so books are an interest of yours. Something consistent, and you're always trying to read a new one. So you're always trying to kind of keep up with that. So how did you first hear about this specific book?
Someone mentioned it in a post somewhere online. I do not remember where.
Okay, so someone mentioned it. At that point that they mentioned it, did you mark it down somewhere at the time they mentioned it? Okay, so you marked it down. I use Goodreads to track my to-read list, but everyone has their own to-read list, I'm sure, somewhere. So you marked it down at the time. You didn't save the post, but you marked down that book from a post that you read, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
I went to Amazon and added it to my list.
You added to your list on Amazon. Fantastic. Intent to purchase. We like it. So what caught your attention specifically about this book? Was there a benefit of it? Was it an author you knew? Did the cover look interesting? What was it about this particular book that caught your interest?
It was mentioned, this is coming back to me now. It was mentioned by another business owner. Let's see, how did this come about? There was another business owner who I saw a post that they made, and they were talking about the business coach that they were working with.
Okay.
And so when I was looking into that business coach, that book was on their profile.
Okay.
Like it was attached to them somehow.
Okay. So it was attached to the business coach. Is this separate from the post you saw, or this is the same post that you had seen?
Yeah, it was separate from the post. So the post sent me to this second person's profile where I saw the book.
And this person, did you already follow them, or this was the first time you were seeing them? Okay, so this is now basically kind of two impressions you've had of this book now at this point. Did you research or compare other similar books at the same time? Did you look at reviews? Did you price compare? Did you do any kind of comparison before you added this to your cart?
The only thing that I did was I mentioned it to Kelly, my wife.
Okay.
And she was familiar with it and said, yeah, this another person that we know has been either read it or been through the program. I'm not exactly sure, but has experience with it.
Okay. So if anyone's keeping track at home, we're now counting 3 impressions towards this purchase. Now we're starting to see a clearer picture of why you bought this book, perhaps. Did you engage with any content from the brand, or let's say the author, prior to making a purchase? Did you look at their blog, their website, any social media? Did you engage at all with their brand?
I did. I'm 90% sure that I did it before I clicked buy.
Okay.
but I was on the website. I went through, they have some materials on their website, resources available. So yeah, I kind of checked into their whole ecosystem.
Okay. And so by doing that, that kind of reinforced that you were already thinking about buying this book, but everything you saw on their website reinforced that this book would be valuable based on
Mm-hmm.
their existing content. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many times did you interact with the brand before making a purchase decision? Did you visited their website? You visited their a profile of someone? Did you get any emails? Did you watch any videos?
I don't think so. I think when I went to the website, I probably read a couple of articles that they had,
Right.
downloaded a resource, maybe a second resource. I don't remember exactly, but I got a couple of different pieces of material from them off of their website.
Okay. And everything you read reinforced this decision. This should be the
Mm-hmm.
next book I'm going to read. Okay, great.
Yep.
What factors contributed to building trust in the product? Did you read any reviews? Or was it really just that it came from sources you trust? You confirmed it with your wife who had also heard of it, which also gives you a little trust. Any outside third party resources you used to validate that purchase?
No, I think it was kind of those two layers were, and then when I went to their website, just the information there were certain pieces of it that really resonated. That they're just the way that they're phrasing things that they said were things that I'm familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
and so that I think is kind of what pushed me over the top.
Okay, so a little confirmation bias. You saw some things that resonated with you that you've seen before, and it can.
So I knew they were right.
Yeah, you knew they were right. Exactly. So, what was the final factor that influenced your decision to click add to cart and purchase, and the day, the hour that you actually purchased it? Price? Did anything affect you there? Convenience?
Gosh, I went through the process that, like, it's so familiar. I don't really think about these steps.
That's the point, Nick. That's how Amazon has. We are sheep. We are just being led straight to the cart.
Yeah. I mean, I think by the time I went to their website, I was already going to buy the book.
Right.
At that point, it just kind of escalated to really looking forward to it.
So you ultimately made that purchase on Amazon or through their website? On Amazon. Okay.
Yeah.
Was it an Amazon link from their website, or did you search for it separately on Amazon?
I searched for it separately. Yeah, I think the point where I decided, like, I'm going to get this book was probably between Kelly's mentioning her familiarity with it and the website. I don't remember which was first.
Okay. But both of those steps helped you ultimately make that purchase and think this is gonna be a solid next book to read. So can you describe the experience of the actual purchase process? Was it easy? Was it straightforward? Were there any obstacles from clicking add to cart to you got that confirmation email, it is on its way to you in 2 days?
Nope. It was pretty easy.
Easy peasy.
You know, Amazon.
One click, all your information stored. You want it tomorrow? You want to save boxes? We'll get it to you in a day. Yep. And then the last question. So how did you feel after making the purchase? Did you receive any follow-up communication from the brand? Did anything that's happened since you bought the book impact your perception of the book, the author, etc.?
I don't think I've gotten any communication from them. I'm sure that I've gotten communication from Amazon.
Oh, sure.
But none. I'm kind of numb to that.
Yeah.
The experience. I mean, you know, with Amazon, the book's there in a day or two. Start reading it a day or two after that, and so far it's been a good experience. It's met the expectations that I had.
The expectations. So if you were to get an email from the author, you know, not directly, but from the publishing group in about 2 weeks asking you to leave a good review, you would say you would do.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So if they give me a prompt and a smooth path to a review, especially now that I'm doing a podcast, so like I have a new appreciation for reviews.
Seriously. Yeah. They look at them. They just got a whole free ad from this.
Yep. Yeah. So if they prompt me and make it a smooth path, I'm an easy person to give a review.
Okay, perfect. Well, so that was the end of that exercise. So basically, if we reverse engineer it, what I like is in the beginning, it was I bought a book this week. By the end of our conversation, we realized that there were much greater factors at play to you buying a book this week. You know, you had to get outside validation to build that trust. You had to get it confirmed. I think we counted 4 times that you had some confirmation. Not that you weren't going to buy it, but each step in that process made you more and more likely to make that purchase, potentially even quicker than you would have. So that was moving you from the top of the funnel where you're great, I need a book. I read books all the time. I just finished a book. I need a book. That was where you were at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of that journey, this was the only book you were going to read next because you had had to confirm 4 different times on 4 different channels by their own copy on their website, by the ease of use of them being sold directly through Amazon and leveraging a third-party platform that already exists. It was confirmed to you by an outside career coach that you liked what they had to say. You might have seen that on LinkedIn. And then 4th, it was confirmed to you by your own wife, someone in your sphere of influence who had been directly connected to or had heard of this book before. So that's 4 different impressions it took for you to ultimately make that purchase. So if I was a marketer, which I am, if I, was going to work with this, if this author was going to come to me and say, we're having trouble selling this book, or another author was to come to me and say, we're having trouble selling this book, I would use this as a great example of, is the process easy? Do we have a website or standalone content that is going to confirm the purchase and shape more of the brand story around this singular purchase, which is something, it's a book, it's not a repeat purchase, like unless they decide to write a series, this is a solo purchase for them. So how are they building up every step of the marketing process so that you were a pretty quick convert for them in less than a week, I would say. So I think it's just a really interesting exercise because everyone thinks that marketing is this, very rigorous dollars and cents. I have to see a sponsored ad on LinkedIn. And if I click on that now, I'm on their list. It is so much more subtle than that. Subtle, and I would say slightly insidious due to the Amazon of it all. And that marketing is everywhere. And I call it to my clients, I say it's like seeing the Matrix. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And now every purchase you make for the next week, you're probably going to in your mind be, well, why did I make this purchase? What did, all the steps all made it easier for you to be receptive to that purchase. If they had sent you an email the day after you were going to purchase with a 15% off discount, great. They would have gotten less for that purchase. So it just shows, I think people go straight to a discount and think that's what is ultimately going to get a conversion. No, I mean, you can buy things at full price. We do it all the time just by telling the right story and understanding who our end consumer is. And, they wrote this book for someone like you, someone who's interested in nonfiction, thought leadership, perspective pieces, someone who's in the industry or adjacent to certain industries, because obviously they're marketing in those industries, someone who's savvy enough to be able to use Amazon and has an account and can make those one-click purchases without thinking about it. You are their ideal customer, and they sold you. So I just find it to be a really interesting exercise because it always gives this light bulb moment, especially to my most skeptical of clients who think that they themselves can see through marketing and they're not a victim of it. We are all victims of it. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. I think that one of the really interesting things that's kind of come to light as we talk through this to me is, and I remember this reaching this point. So, if I put the book on my list at some point, I'm probably going to get it. Like any book that goes on the list, I'm probably going to do it.
Yes.
But there was a place in this process, like after a couple of those touch points, and I'm sure that it sped up, like moving it to the top of the queue. But I remember for sure it becoming a book that I was 100% going to read.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't next, I was absolutely going to read it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's an extra box that gets checked for me, right? It's like, I got a list of probablys. There's a shorter list of absolutelys.
Exactly. So you, in turn, were a qualified lead from them because you were saying, yes, I'm going to read you. And then the bumped up, every touch point probably got you closer to that purchase point. You were already a pretty high intent, purchaser. You like to read books. Maybe the cost to entry isn't too high. You're going to read this book, and then every step in that process got you closer to ultimately making that purchase. And so that's, those are small purchases. Those are things that we purchase every day. There is a psychological reason behind every single thing that we purchase, and every website we click on, there is, and there's data, there's cookies and everything that tracks this, but I'm much more interested in these psychological reasons behind consumer behavior. And I think this is a really nice exercise to do with yourself, with other, if you work with clients, do this with your clients, because it really just shows that everyone is susceptible to marketing. And the more you understand that, even myself as a marketer susceptible to marketing, you realize it gets easier to execute. But I will say the caveat of that is I've also worked with founders that think I wouldn't do this, so everyone wouldn't do this. I think you always have to take yourself out and just know that just because you are a consumer who maybe you hate abandoned cart emails, and if you get an abandoned cart email now, I'm definitely not buying it, so we're never going to send an abandoned cart email. For every one customer that hates an abandoned cart email, there's 20 that love it. So you can't go off of your own whims and desires fully. But I think that using yourself and your team as case studies for the type of marketing that you like to receive and the way that you like to engage with the brand, I think that's a really great stepping stone to understanding how you want to use that for your own brand.
This has all been like very good for awareness. I think a lot of times you just described it. We get ourselves in trouble when we look at what we would do and what we would expect the audience to do as being like the same thing. Mm-hmm. And they're not. There are some things we can draw from, and there are others that we need to disregard. I feel like for me, in a lot of cases, I'm better off if I just completely throw what I would do out the window, because I'm not sure that I'm a good example of any of it.
Yeah, exactly. I am not my own ideal customer. And so, I know some people who hate podcast ads. I personally like them. It gives me like a way to I kind of just put it like when you have a commercial, just like you can zone out for a couple seconds and then zone back in when your podcast starts. Sometimes your hands aren't free and you can't skip them, so they're just going to be there. So, everyone, I think it's understanding all the different steps to something even as small as a monthly book purchase, a stick of gum, whatever you're buying, big or small, is intent that needs to happen. There is an initial need. You have to have baseline awareness of the brand or product. You have to have interest. You have to have consideration. You have to engage with the brand in some way. There has to be X amount of touch points. There needs to be trust. And then that key decision can happen. So there's a lot of steps that need to happen, and not all of them are tied to a marketing activity, and some are tied to many marketing activities, but that's how you kind of find that sweet spot that works for your brand, because you can't do everything. So you kind of got to weigh the things that are going to have the most value to you based on what your audience actually wants and what the behavior you're starting to see with your consumers. So that's why I think that marketing should be data-driven. Marketing should be empathetic. It should be customer-led. It should be vision-led. And that's kind of where my idea for mindful marketing all comes from.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds, from our conversations, it seems like you've got a pretty consistent, like a structure or a process that you like to take clients through to get you to the place that you need to be. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I start all of my new clients with what I call a brand insight, and I ask them a series of questions. It's about 30 to 40 questions. They spend an hour with me, and I dig into not just their business, but also them as a person. I don't get too personal with it, but it's important that I know, like I said earlier, like what makes them tick, what their ultimate motivation is. And I ask a lot of questions about their audience and who they perceive as their audience versus who their actual audience is. I ask for numbers, I ask for data. And those are all just the initial starting points that get us to even put together a proposal that makes sense. So I do not do cold proposals. I don't just say, great, tell me, give me a 5-minute pitch of your brand and I'll tell you exactly what you need. I can't promise that, and I don't like starting an engagement that way. So instead, I like to do the brand work at the top. It's part of any process that you do, any kind of work you do with Moonstone. We always start with it. Some clients have just done that as a standalone project, and it just gives them insight, which is why I just call it brand insight. So it can be standalone. But for me, every single client process starts with a lot of questions, a lot of deep diving in, and then we add in all the organization. There's, systems and processes we use to get them where they need to be. And we have 3 different programs that we can run based on what they're ultimately looking for. But I never just give a proposal off of, an introduction or something like that, because I would never assume to know what someone needs. And I don't want them to tell me what I need. I want to ask them a series of questions so we can dig into what they need. Because again, it's not my business, it's theirs, and I will care as much as if it's my business, but ultimately the motivations need to come from them. So I always say marketing is simple, not easy. It's definitely not easy, but there is like a rule to it. There are processes, there are systems that you can put in place that make it a little simpler to kind of see it more as, ones and zeros instead of just this abstract catch-all for all these different tactics that you can do. Once you start to see that there's different channels, there's different approaches, there's different activities, you start to see that there's categories and it's a little simpler to understand. But I really try not to overwhelm my clients with these are the biggest, broadest things we can do. We start small, we build, we grow, we scale together. Every client wants a new website. There's usually 15 things we need to put in place before they get a new website. So it's just important for me that I level set with my clients from the beginning, and they're realistic about their expectations, because marketing is not going to fix a broken business. It never will. So that's never what I want to be brought on to do. But I'm more than happy to help grow and scale and market a business. But yeah, I definitely never want anyone to think that marketing is a quick fix, because it's definitely, when done right, it is anything but.
I'm really enjoy listening to like a craftsman talk about the craft. It's not an accident that this is what you're doing. Hearing you talk about some of these things, like, from the beginning of our conversation, you're talking about your curiosity being a thing, like you always ask a lot of questions, and then like that's kind of the central piece of you being really good at what you do, right? Like your strength is what puts you in a place to be able to understand the client's brand well enough to then like capture their voice. And it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, the biggest compliment I can get when a client is I've had clients be like, did I write this or did you write this? And it's such a compliment to me, because I'm That's like, so I'm cool. In your head, aren't I? I'm living in there. And it's just nice, because I know as a business owner, I know how hard it is to relinquish control over, something as specific as your messaging or your visual identity. I mean, these are very, very personal things to a business owner. So I don't take it lightly. My team doesn't take it lightly. And so to me, it's such a compliment when clients feel like they can trust us as their mouthpiece out to the public. I mean, that's, again, it's not something I take lightly. Marketing is an extremely important part of your business. And it should be looked at as that. And I treat it like that. And, the clients that I've been lucky enough to work with also treat it that way.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found the show valuable, you can say thanks and show your support simply by taking a quick second to like, share, and comment on the show. You can also find more information about each of my guests, all of the resources from the show, and myself at nickberry.info/TBOJ.